All right, always a joy to have with us Rick Green, founder of the Patriot Academy, former Texas State representative, and he's an attorney. But go to patriotacademy.com. And let me say that Rick and his team, gosh, they just do such an amazing work all over the country. And you can take these courses or take these videos right up from his website, but they are being presented here in Southern Oregon. And the next viewing, I think, is coming up July 23rd. And our good friend Brian Platt's heading that up. So we'll keep you informed of that. But they can come to your area. You can do it yourself. Check it out at patriotacademy.com. Rick, I noticed over your shoulder there, it looks like a replica of the monument of our forefathers.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I was so taken by it, I probably could have stayed there all day. It's an amazing monument, but it deals with morality, law, education, freedom, liberty. It seems like that those virtues, all of those virtues represented at that monument, are under attack in this country. Do you think we realize that?
I think we're waking up to it, Perry. I really do. As you mentioned, our classes, we see the eyes opening up all the time. In fact, I had a lady on my show last night, my Front Porch Live that I do on Sunday nights, and she just was telling her story of stumbling across our classes and took one, and this is someone that pictures with Michelle Obama. She was definitely on the left. 2 weeks into the class, her eyes are scales are coming off. She's realizing the truth that's there, the secret sauce that's in that monument, and the things that the forefathers gave us, and then the founders gave us. And by the end of the class, I mean, she's literally weeping on the class. I happened to be watching that night on the one that she was taking, and as she shared with the class, it made me weep, knowing that what we're doing is making a difference. Had another guy, a pastor in Connecticut, say he had this agnostic that came into the class and said, "Listen, I don't agree with you faith people, but the left hates you, and so they're destroying the country. I must need to team up with you." By week 5, he gave his life to the Lord. In week 8, they baptized him at the class. Now, this is a class talking about the Constitution, right? You wouldn't expect that kind of stuff to happen, but we're talking about the secret sauce, and that's what the monument represents. It's really the secret sauce of what made America great, and Kirk Cameron's done such a great job of bringing that thing to life. I didn't know it was there. I had never been. I got to go on National Day of Prayer this year. Kirk actually does the first night in our class, Biblical Citizenship, and he's got a great program called American Campfire Revival that we now distribute through Patriot Academy, and people can take that as a part of their biblical citizenship classes. So that's a really long answer to your question. Absolutely, I think people are waking up and realizing garbage in, garbage out. If you put bad stuff into the culture, you get bad stuff out, and we see the negative results right now. So how do we go back to the good stuff in? What were the inputs that produced the greatest nation in the history of the world? If we want liberty, if we want the blessings of liberty, if we want freedom, we've got to learn what the inputs are. What are the principles that produce that? And that's the largest granite monument in America. It's hidden behind a neighborhood in Massachusetts. Most people don't know it's there, but we bring it to life in our courses because we think it's got just wonderful, wonderful wisdom in it.
Well, I do hope people will go to that subdivision there in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and take the time to go visit it. It's an amazing display. And Kirk Cameron's Monumental, the movie that he did of that, is certainly well worth it. And our good friend Marshall Foster's with him on that as well. So anyway, check it all out.
And both of them are such great teachers, they just pull you in. They're sitting around the fire teaching on this American Campfire Revival, and I just sit there going, wow. I mean, it's really, really good. They're both very gifted in that.
Good. I want to come back to Uvalde, and now out of that has come, again, the gun control debate. And we're seeing a lot of suggestions of some kind of gun control, from the type of gun to waiting periods. There's over the weekend, I think there was some kind of a bipartisan compromise in the Senate. I don't know where that's going to go. Can you give us an update on this? What you think is going to happen?
Yeah, Perry, you can, on any policy issue, you can kind of tell where people are going to go on the issue based on their worldview. How do they see the world? How do they understand humanity and mankind? And the gun issue is a very easy one to tell. If you come from the kind of new age, a man is inherently good, and if you put bad things like a gun in front of them, it's going to cause them to commit crime, you're going to be for all kinds of gun control, because if you can just keep good people from getting a gun in front of them, they won't commit a crime. That's the worldview there. The other worldview is the biblical worldview, which says, no, man's inherently bad. We're sinful. The heart is evil. No man can know it. Jeremiah 17:9. We need, as George Washington said, religion and morality in the culture if we want a good culture, because that's what, changes that. And God ends up changing your heart and you become self-governing. And therefore, the gun is not the problem. The gun is actually a weapon, a tool, just like a car or a knife or anything else, and you can use it for good or evil. Those two different worldviews are what are at play in the entire gun debate, if you will. And I would argue even our terminology, when it's the gun control debate or it's mass shootings. No, in fact, it's violence. It's murder. Shooting is not a bad word. A mass shooting is what happens when I train at the range. We start creating this negative connotation to using a firearm when a firearm is actually a wonderful tool. It can be a sporting tool. It can be hunting. Most importantly, it's self-defense. And so I think everything they're doing right now is based on lies. They've been lying to the American people about, it's only in the United States where this stuff happens. That's an absolute lie based on faulty data of one study. And Barack Obama spread that lie for 8 years. And now Joe Biden's been doing it for a year and a half. That study, they claim we're 30 or 40% of mass murder events around the country. We're actually 3%. They manipulated the data to remove any time there were 2 shooters. Really, you're not going to count Columbine, the most famous school? I mean, they really are willing to lie to get what they want. The president loves to lie and say gun manufacturers they're the only ones that have a liability immunity, and that's all a lie. I mean, if your gun malfunctions and blows up in your face, absolutely there's a tort there. You can sue that gun manufacturer. If the gun is used as it was designed and created to be used, of course you can't sue them for someone misusing the gun. We don't sue Chevy because a drunk driver runs over someone, or because the crazy guy up in Wisconsin kills 6 people with a Chevy Suburban and injured 62 others. That's just crazy tort liability ideas to do that sort of thing. Now, we do give Big Pharma immunity when they make a bad product and it kills now over 30,000 people and injures over 1 million, and you can't sue them over that. So I think maybe Joe Biden just had a Freudian slip all these times he said that gun manufacturers have special liability. It's actually Big Pharma, but that's another topic. Anyway, this is all based on, manipulation of the data and lies. Nothing that they're passing will save lives. It will cost lives. Government is in the way here, makes it harder for a lady that somebody's after to defend herself. We make it harder for girls to defend themselves on college campuses. The red flag laws we just got through talking about the 2-tier justice system. I do not want government empowered anymore to use that justice system against me because somebody makes an anonymous claim. Oh, that Rick Green, he's crazy. There's something wrong with him, so go in and take his guns. It's just a bad response. What we need are hardened schools. We need more sheepdogs, more trained people with firearms to stop the bad guys. It's all about proximity to the dirtbag when they start their killing spree. If you have somebody close by, whenever it happens, you can stop the killer immediately, and maybe nobody but the bad guy dies, which is what happened in West Virginia the day after Uvalde. So in Uvalde, 21 die because this guy gets an hour and 20 minutes to murder people. The next day in Virginia, guy takes out an AR-15, wants to kill 40 people at a party. Well, sheepdog with a ponytail takes out her gun from her purse, kills the bad guy immediately in seconds, and nobody else dies. That's the headline that should happen every time. That's why we train people to be responsible gun owners and be sheepdogs. Every Walmart, every grocery store, every restaurant, every school, there ought to be citizens armed and ready to defend themselves and their family. You cannot count on the police. That's a crazy idea. They're always going to be minutes away when you need them in seconds. That's the nature of how it works. You don't want a police state where they're on every corner and in every home. So I got a lot to say about this one. I'm sorry for filibustering, but this is what the founders called the first law of nature, the right of self-defense. It's a biblical right of self-defense. It's enshrined in our Constitution. It's in the Old Testament, and moving away from that principle will only cost more lives. It won't save lives.
All right. You can filibuster here any time, buddy. All right, I got only a couple seconds late, but I do want to get your thoughts. As you know, they're demonstrating in front of the Supreme Court today. The Roe versus Wade decision could come out today, could come out anytime this week. But what's so amazing to me is that this isn't going to end abortion, just sends it back to the state. You and I know the drill. We know the argument. Texas and other states are now showing where they're going to go when it gets to their level, which is encouraging. But what really bothers me is this movement of death, pro-death. The late Pope John Paul II said that when Roe versus Wade was decided, it unleashed the spirit of death upon the world. And I am so amazed of how many people want to march to have the right to kill a human being under the guise of women's health. I'm asking you the obvious question, but my stars, are we this far off from human respect for human life?
We are, Perry. I think, even to the previous topic, I think that's why there's an increase in mass murder events. We've always had mass murders, mostly done by governments, but even the worst school massacre in history in the United States was 100 years ago with no firearm. Guy used dynamite. But I think there's an increase in that in the last 40, 50 years because of the culture of death. We've lost respect for life. We've started teaching kids anything goes, everything's okay, do whatever feels good, do whatever's right in your own eyes. Supreme Court case Stone v. Graham in 1980 took out the 10 Commandments from our schools. So instead of teaching, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, instead of teaching those basic ideas, we changed it and said, anything goes. There's no God. You're a God unto yourself. Do whatever feels good. And then we said, no respect for life. And we had a culture of death now for 50 years in our country. So I think you put your finger on it exactly. You got multiple generations now that are so bought into this. It's become their most important cause. And back to our first topic of the day, the two-tier justice system and the response to this, we had an assassination attempt on a United States Supreme Court justice, and most of our media in America has not even covered it. They've ignored it completely. We've got these people trying to stop the process from even taking place. They're literally trying to block the Supreme Court decision from even being disseminated. You talk about threats to democracy, threats to our system, and yet you hear no problem with any of that from the left because of exactly what you said. They are sold out to the idea of abortion. And Perry, all we got to do is go back to the Old Testament, the worshiping of Baal and Moloch, and just the replacing our God with these things causes literally the sacrifice of children. And it's not just abortion now; it's the sacrifice of the heart and soul of these children as they're taking them into these drag queens, sex shows. It's evil, evil stuff marching across our country. And that's why the church has to stand up, and we have to be warriors for Christ. We have to be willing to stand up and be like a King David or a Daniel or a Shadrach or a Jael or a Deborah. This mamsy-pamsy, wimpy Christianity, I'm just going to be nice to everybody no matter what. Folks, they're coming for your children. Evil is marching across the country. You better stand on God's word and stand up and be mighty men and women of courage. Reeds not shaken by the wind, as they said of the founding era pastors, because they were Black Road Regiment pastors. We need folks that are willing to stand on God's word and speak truth to this culture and overcome this culture of death.
Brother, I wish I had you more time. I'm out of time. Let me say thank you for your work. It's being picked up here in our own backyard. I'm so excited about that. We'll be promoting that quite heavily. But let me just say to our viewers and listeners, patriotacademy.com is Rick's website. There's a picture of the landing page. There's so much going on there. There's so many offerings there. Let me encourage you to go there, take advantage of those resources, sign up, be a leader, maybe be a sponsor, and support them. patriotacademy.com. God bless you, pal. Stay in touch, okay?
Thank you, Perry. God bless you, man. Thanks for having me back.
Okay.